The Hijrat of Prophet Muhammad from Makkah to Madinah is not only a major milestone in Islamic history but also a deeply moving and spiritual journey filled with lessons in faith, sacrifice, patience, and divine guidance. This sacred migration was a turning point that transformed Islam from a small persecuted group into a powerful and organized community destined to bring light to the world. For 13 years in Makkah, the Prophet called people to the worship of one God, Allah, rejecting the idol worship and corruption that had taken root in society. Despite his truthfulness, kindness, and unparalleled character, he and his followers were met with severe opposition by the Quraysh, the ruling tribe of Makkah. Muslims were beaten, tortured, humiliated, and forced to live under a harsh social boycott. Many were killed for simply believing in one God. Yet, despite all this, the Prophet never lost hope and never wavered in his mission. The Quraysh grew more hostile with time. They feared that Islam would spread beyond Makkah and threaten their power and influence. Meanwhile, the message of Islam had reached the people of Yathrib, later called Madinah, a city north of Makkah. They had heard about the Prophet and believed him to be the awaited messenger. Over 2 consecutive years during the pilgrimage season, small groups of people from Yathrib met the Prophet secretly at a place called Aqaba. They pledged their loyalty to him, promised to support him, and invited him to migrate to their city, assuring him of their protection even with their lives. When the oppression in Makkah reached its peak and the Quraysh plotted to assassinate the Prophet Allah gave him permission to migrate. On the night of the planned attack, the Prophet left his home, miraculously escaping under the watch of the assassins who were surrounding his house. He left his cousin, Ali ibn Abi Talib to sleep in his bed as a decoy, trusting in Allah's protection. The Prophet then met Abu Bakr his closest companion, and together they set out on one of the most dangerous journeys in Islamic history. Rather than going directly to Madinah, the Prophet and Abu Bakr first went south to the cave of Thar, where they stayed hidden for 3 days. The Quraysh searched desperately for them, offering a reward of 100 camels to anyone who captured Muhammad dead or alive. At one point, the enemies came right to the mouth of the cave. Abu Bakr was terrified, fearing not for himself but for the safety of the Prophet. The Prophet calmed him with the words, "Do not be sad, indeed, Allah is with us." Surah At-Tawbah, 940. A spider spun a web across the cave's entrance, and a bird nested there, making the cave appear untouched, another miracle from Allah. After the danger had passed, they resumed their journey to Madinah, guided by a trusted non-Muslim named Abdullah ibn Urayqht. The journey took over a week, through harsh deserts, mountains, and unmarked paths. Along the way, they were nearly caught by a tracker named Suraqah ibn Malik. However, when he got close, his horse stumbled repeatedly and sank into the sand. Realizing he could not touch the Prophet Suraqah asked for forgiveness and was told by the Prophet that one day he would wear the royal bracelets of the Persian emperor. This prophecy came true years later when Persia fell to the Muslims during the caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab. As the Prophet approached Madinah, excitement filled the air. Men, women, and children of the city climbed rooftops and lined the roads to greet him. The Muslims of Madinah, the Ansar, had been eagerly waiting for their beloved guest. When he arrived, he was welcomed with the famous words, Tala, al-Badru, Elena min Thaniyatul Wada, the full moon has risen upon us from the valley of Wada. These words became a song of love and joy that has been sung for over 1400 years. Before entering Madinah, the Prophet stopped at a place called Quba and stayed there for a few days. He built the first mosque in Islam there, Masjid Quba, which still stands to this day. Then he entered Madinah, and instead of choosing a house, he let his camel decide. Wherever the camel sat, he would stay. The camel stopped at the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, a humble and generous man who had the honor of hosting the Prophet. In Madinah, the Prophet worked to unite the people. He formed bonds of brotherhood between the Muhajirin, the emigrants from Makkah, and the Ansar, the helpers from Madinah. He also established a constitution that gave rights and protections to all citizens, including Jews and non-Muslims. Madinah became the center of Islamic learning, justice, and leadership. The Hijrat was not an escape, it was a strategic and spiritual move commanded by Allah. It was the beginning of the Muslim Ummah, the first Islamic state, and the foundation for the future expansion of Islam. It taught the world the power of faith, the strength in unity, and the endless mercy and wisdom of Allah SWT. If you like this story, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring Islamic stories and history.